Hello, welcome. What are you doing here? Oh, you're here to see my mug? No? Oh, you're here to fucking troll me. Welcome to my channel. It is The Mind of Opex, where we're not talking about stupid shit. We're talking about shit that you usually don't consider. The reason why we do this is because I have one of those unique individual minds in which bring forth great, endless, infinite, quality content, in my opinion. Because these aren't simple ideas, right? Sometimes you can say, well, that's obvious, that's obvious. Yeah, we gotta dive into the obvious so we can dive in deeper. We start here, we branch out, and we get farther and farther and deeper. All right, let's dive into the video today because there's gonna be a lot of controversy on my channel, which is normal. This video is basically going to be considering an idea and branch off on that idea. Because I think, I'm pretty confident, this is accurate information. Now, genetics are passed on from the parent to the offspring, right? Generation after generation after generation, same types of features. We know there's a genetic code. There's traits being passed down from generation to generation. Now, this is a concept I want you to understand. This is going to be a short video, so just stay with me, because I don't want to dive in too deep with this video. Just deep enough where we go past the 101 level, but not to like the depths of my mind, because I don't think you guys are ready for that shit yet. Well, we are going to dive into, let's say, look at the manipulation of the genetics that we do on other animals, right? And I'm not talking about in the lab. I'm not talking about genetic modification, like GMO type shit, where we're changing genetic codes and going in there and turning a worm to a glowworm so you can go night fishing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about breeding animals to be having certain characteristics, and that the offspring and the future of the species becomes that in which that the humans manipulate it on purpose. And this is not through, like I said, gene splicing or anything like that, or making your corn to have, you know, parts of fish and tomatoes in it or whatever, right? Nothing like that. That's not what I'm talking about in this video. But I'm talking about breeding animals to be certain ways. Let's just say the obvious one, cows, right? That's one of the obvious ones. For thousands of years, men have been changing or letting certain animals breed with certain animals that had certain characteristics to have a specific outcome. And this is, we all know this, right? Cows have been bred to be docile. So they take one bull, and they take the bull, and they have one bull breed with all of the female cows. And the reason why they do this is because that one bull is going to be the most docile bull. And that's on purpose, so the least amount of adrenaline. Then they take all the female cows, which are generally docile these days, but they weren't originally, right? So they found more docile ones, and they forced the more docile bulls, the less testosterone, the less adrenaline, the less survival mode, fucking stab people with my horns characteristics, right? So the more docile bulls were bred with the most docile female cows, and the offspring would be carrying over that trait, that characteristic. And the reason for this is for them to be contained, them to grow, and them to be slaughtered for consumption, which is totally normal in my mind. It's hey, the cow doesn't know any better, right? Right? So this would be like free range type of farming. And again, there's a good reason for why humans did that. It's because you know how hard it is to always hunt and chase down cows, or if you were to fence a cow in a pasture, how hard it would be if the cow didn't want you around it and wanted to attack you because you were a threat, right? So how that would be a very tough existence for the human to farm that animal. Think of it like this: water buffalo. It sort of stems from the same thing. So they took basically buffalo, or was it a type of buffalo, or bison, and they bred it with a yak in order to have the offspring that you know of nowadays as that dairy cow. That dairy cow isn't specifically normal, right? This isn't a natural existence for this cow. This has been manipulated because they took, let's say, bison or buffalo, and they bred it with a yak. And then there you have this animal. And then they took that animal and bred it over and over and over again with the most docile, dumbed down, not looking up or considering anything, docile, low IQ animal. And they kept doing this year after year, after generation after generation after generation, and came out with a docile cow with so much more meat. So they bred the fat cows, the docile cows, with each other. And the offspring would be exactly what was intended, which would be more docile, fatter, and more meat, and less IQ, and less ability to rebel, let's say. Right? So they do things to lower their IQ and to play ball, right? And one of those things would be the thing around their knee, in their nose, that ring. They pierce their nose, and then they pull on that ring with a string or a rope or whatever, or a chain. And they pull them because the cow can't resist. The cow can't do anything because, think of it like this. Have you ever had your mom or your grandmother or whoever as a child grab you by the ear and drag you? You're going to follow, right? That's a lot of pain. You're going to be like, stop it, right? Well, the point is you're going to fall victim because there's nothing you can do because they hurt so much, you're just going to obey. So cows, same way with pigs. There are pigs and boars and there's pigs that have been bred for generation after generation for hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds, if not thousands, I meant. Not hundreds of thousands. But pigs have been bred to be the same way. Dumb, not really care for you, but when you find a wild, not domesticated pig or boar, they're going to fight you off. And they are no joke. They will fuck you up. One boar can basically repel a bear, a black bear, right? For the most part. They'll be like, get the fuck away from me, right? Or an ocelot. Did I say an ocelot? Screw an ocelot. I think an ocelot can take down a boar. It's just going to be very tough. But anyways, the point is it's going to be very tough. And as a human, to get that close to a boar, those boars, like warthogs and shit, they are no joke. That's what pigs and boars are. But they've been bred for generation after generation to be docile, dumber, and plumper. I think you guys get that. I'm not just going to keep going animal to animal like that. But let's go to foxes. Foxes, as we all know, are not domesticated like dogs, right? So if you look at just foxes, and you try to have a fox as a pet, it's not going to work out. Not like a dog. It's not domesticated. It has all those animal survivalist instincts. And because they have those instincts, you are not going to be able to just pet it and enjoy like you would a dog. A dog you can train. A fox is like, no, fuck you. I just want the food. I'll dive into your cabinets and grab all your food. And if you scold me, it's not going to change a fucking goddamn thing. Right? Because that's the animal the way it is. It's not domesticated. So I'm going to screw up these dates. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But there's this guy, I think in Russia. Pretty sure it's Russia, not Germany. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Russia. There's this guy in Russia that in like the 1920s or 30s started breeding foxes to domesticate those foxes. And it was very, very, very tough work. So they take the foxes and they only allowed the most docile or the friendliest ones to breed. All the other ones would die, never breed. And they did this generation after generation with the foxes. Now, 80, 90 years later, you can buy those foxes domesticated. Well, as much as you can domesticate an animal in 80, 90 years. They still have their instincts, but now you can pet them, you can play with them, you can play fetch with them, for the most part. Right? They still have their animal instincts, but for 80, 90 years, what they have been able to do in Russia to breed this animal over and over with the most docile, friendliest foxes is amazing, what they've been able to accomplish. Now, you can go online and buy one of these foxes for a few $1,000s, and they're pretty damn domesticated. Right? They'll have it shipped to your house in the USA because they've been breeding these foxes for domestication on purpose. So it's pretty wild to see the results in just 80, 90 years. Now you can take a fox and play with a fox for the most part. Right? They still have some instincts, but they've been bred to pass down those traits. So it's very well known. This is not something that's new. This is something that humans have been doing with animals to domesticate animals, from cows to horses to pigs to foxes now, right? To domesticate them for our interests. So it's been going on for thousands of years. So there's nothing new on the table saying that humans, this is new to us because we just started doing it with foxes. We've been doing it with animals for years. Now, here we go with the conspiracy shit. From my understanding and the evidence that I have seen, there has been rulers on this planet since at least the last catastrophic event. Since the last catastrophic event, there has been a world order. Or a new world order. Don't get that confused with people saying it's the new world order. Now, it's the same motherfuckers that have been in power for a long, long time. And I'm not talking about 1,000 years. I'm not talking about 5,000 years. I'm talking about at least 12,000 years. And there's a lot of evidence for this. And of course, dive into my previous videos. Just look at videos about history or anything like that, and I'll explain to you the evidence why I have derived to this point. But today, they have perfected their ability to control the masses. It is so perfected, you don't need shackles and chains to be a slave. It's all in here. See, the original rule, at least in the last age, I will call it, since the New World Order has been around, in my eyes, the evidence I've seen, the last 10 to 12,000 years, has been religion, right? They took that religion because it brainwashed the masses, and there has been a innate thought that has been passed around, or memory that's passed around, or feeling, or chemicals in the brain that has been passed down from generation to generation that feels the Holy Spirit, that feels good, that feels like there's a God out there or a presence out there. It's something that has been put into us by design. Stay with me. I know it sounds very conspiracy-minded, but you got to stay with me on this, or else we're not going to get through it together, and you're just going to do the common thing of dismissing something that you don't understand about, and of course, that is information's never going to penetrate your brain, and you'll never consider those things. Therefore, you are inconsiderate, and you're dumb yourself. For example, the wise entertain thoughts, while the dumb dismiss it. I'll entertain any thought. Unicorns once existed, I'll entertain that thought. Doesn't mean it's real. I'll entertain the flat earth shit. Doesn't mean it's real. At least entertain it. But this is what I believe because of what I've seen in the evidence. So, stay with me. Religion has been passed down from generation to generation. Those traits still follow us to this day. Why is that? Because those feelings, those ideas, those memories, those beliefs, the Christian God, the Islamic God, those follow us. And we have this, and if you ask the average person in America today, whether they have a religion or not that they follow, if you ask them, do you believe there is a God? The majority of the United States of Americans believe there is a God. But they follow no religion. If that's not fucking evidence enough that there's traits passed down from generation to generation, memory and innate ability to believe something that isn't there. It doesn't mean that they have to go to church for it, because it's already in us. Just like that cow is already bred to be docile, they're not going to act up. Right? So we believe that there is some reason for our morals and our ability to do what is right. Right? So we have been domesticated ourselves. If we were, see, a lot of people think that because of a state nowadays, that we are controlled because of the state. But we have been bred for thousands of years to be domesticated. We have been bred for thousands of years to be following our moral compass. If anarchy was to happen, everyone and their mom want to believe that it's going to be chaos. That is not the case. We aren't bred to be chaotic. And just because there's a state telling us what to do does not make us good people. Obviously, there's murderers and rapists and everything else, whether there's a law in place or not. It doesn't matter what the law is. We've already been bred to be domesticated for thousands of years. Parents teaching their child morality and ethics. The state having control over the mind of children, to nowadays, which have been more of a perfected domestication platform, which would be the state. See, they don't need religion to control the people anymore. Why? Because you already have a follow the rules mentality. You don't need to follow the commandments because you already do, naturally. It's already been bred into your system to do so. So we aren't wild fucking people. With or without religion, we can be ethical. We can understand the pain that we can provide to others and the virtues that we can provide. We can provide good or bad, God or evil. No, good or evil, God or devil. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what words you use. It means the same thing. So when you're doing good, you feel good. When you're doing bad, you feel bad. And you can have, when you're taking out of your instincts, right? Of thousands of years ago in the past and beyond the tribal days, when we were, you know, tribal or chaotic, that has been bred from generation to generation to generation to generation not to be so. Some races, less. Some genetics, less than others. For example, Asian people and white people have been more domesticated over the years than the other races. It's true. We have been domesticated for thousands of years more than the other races. So it's very simple to understand why we are higher IQ. We are higher IQ because of thousands of years of domestication and being able to flourish in an environment where you need higher IQ to breed, to have more resources to survive. When back in the past, white people and Asian people, thousands of years ago, had to hunt, had to be more of a tribal society. And during that period, they learned very important things in their domestication. Take care of the tribe. It's not a free-for-all. It's not me eating all of the steak and then hiding it from the other people in my tribe. We all need each other. So it took us out of our element to do so. Now, again, this isn't supposed to be an offensive video, but if you take modern Africans today who are just now becoming domesticated, they have lower IQ and bigger ability to be violent and use instincts to get what they want rather than using their higher IQ and playing the game in their morality. I'm not saying every black African's bad. I'm not saying that. But we can say the same thing for Native Americans. They've just been domesticated over the last 400 or 500 years. Right? So there is a domestication of the people. Now there's something that strangely happened recently. And it's not domestication because, of course, many of the world's population have been domesticated a lot longer than the other races. So it's not new, it's just newer for some. Like black Africans, like sub-Saharan Africans are obviously much lower IQ, much more prone for violence and lack of compassion, or the lack of their take care of their tribe, more of a selfish thing. Not all of them, but it's more that way, right? It's just more genetically there, right? They've been less domesticated. Now, the reason why I'm calling this domesticating humans is for a specific reason, because that is what has happened. Now, just like humans manipulating animals for food or for entertainment or pleasure, whatever. Don't think pleasure like, you know, Arabians and goats or something. Get that out of your mind. I meant pleasure as in, you know, you're hanging out with your dog. You're having a pleasurable time taking your dog for a run up the fucking hills. I don't know, right? That's pleasure. So we use this manipulation because we are more dominant and we wanted to have companionship or whatever, right? Now there's a way that the rulers have perfected this, and I think the domestication process started a long time ago, before the New World Order, which again I consider 10 to 12,000 years ago. I could be wrong, but that's where the evidence leads me, and I surrender to the best evidence possible. Something that is very verifiable in terms of empirical. You can recreate it and understand what period things happened. But there was rulers and dividing land and etc. Right? But before that, there was a time period probably where the domestication actually occurred. This could have been 12,000 years ago. This could be 120,000 years ago. I don't know. But that's where information gets iffy because of all the book burnings and stuff like that from the New World Order, and to make sure that you don't learn the previous languages. So they had to create new languages for the people, like Latin languages and stuff like that. So people couldn't read cuneiform or, right? So they don't know their real history. They just know what they teach them in school. History is fabricated, it's a lie. Or at least what they tell you. There's no such thing as fake history, just them lying about it, right? Or not telling you the whole truth. So they have been domesticating humans for a while. And I don't believe necessarily it was from rulers to begin with, necessarily. Could be. But at some point, the rulers found it very beneficial to use religion to control the masses. Things like emperors would envelop, or the Pope, right? Your power is brought to you by God. Here's a book. Read this book and obey me because I'm the powers that be, because read that book. Once you believe that God in that book sent me here to rule over you. Right? So you got to defend our nation and my rule to your death. So it was very useful for rulers to use religion to be the moral compass and the basic delusion to have control over people. And it was very easy because that was already in the human ability, in their genetics, to have a conscience. Right? We're breeding dogs. To this day, dogs now have a conscience, right? Imagine how long ago it took for humans to have a conscience. Long ago. Way longer than it took dogs to have a moral compass, right? And then when you add reading and writing and language and stuff like that, and effective communication, the ability to control people was so much easier with religion. With the ability to say this is a brainwashing tool. Once you're brainwashed and your brain is conformed and programmed to that level, you are able to be controlled and manipulated, right? Like Jesus said in the Bible, give to Caesar what is his, right? So you're manipulating a moral compass to be like obeying your rulers, right? That's why we don't have that many rebels today like me. I'm a rebel. I'm a free thinker. I'm a philosopher. Why don't we have many of these today, and why do people just obey? Because it's been bred for thousands of years for you to obey. And it's natural for your instincts to say, well, if you're in a cage, there's something wrong with that and you got to get out. But there's something that people just agree with it, right? An animal in a cage would want to fight their way out of that cage, right? Even if they're a circus animal, and I mean, they literally need to be beat down to domesticate them enough to be a circus animal, like a tiger or something. But humans, you do something wrong and you're put in jail, you're not fighting tooth and nail to get the fuck out of that jail. You've been domesticated and you've had higher IQ to understand what could result from that. And intelligent enough to understand what can happen in all the variables, like I said in my last video, what can happen, why you're not violent. It's because you've been bred to obey. Well, I'm going to have less of a... I could be here the rest of my life. I mean, you have the ability to understand consequences. You could be in there the rest of your life if you strangle the guard and try to fight your way out. You can be in there the rest of your life. Or you can just serve your little 7-8 year sentence, and you'll be out in 7-8 years, and you can enjoy more of your life. So you have that ability to understand consequences and variables, which a tiger would not. A tiger just says, I gotta kill this guy because this guy's holding me captive. Just gotta do that. But we don't do that because we obey. We've been bred and domesticated to obey. Same thing if you had a dog. And you can have a dog in a barrier, right? You can breed a dog to not go past a certain barrier that doesn't exist. No fence or anything. You can train your dog saying, hey, that's far enough. And the dog looks and understands your tonality and your ability to teach them, right? They understand, hey, he doesn't want me to go this far. I don't want any consequences. I have a moral compass now. I obey this guy. He feeds me, whatever, right? So I'm going to obey that person because I love him, etc., right? We enjoy each other's company, it's companionship, whatever, right? So I'm going to stop here. And even if he doesn't see me, I'm not going to go past that barrier to the neighbor's yard or into the road or whatever, right? Because my master trained me through tonality, and I understood that tonality because that was effective communication. Watch my video on communication, etc. If you want to know a little bit more about how we communicate, and it's much more than just language and speech. So the dog would stop there. Now, the same reason why a human wouldn't try to break their way out, but they would know the consequences if they did. So it's the same way with the dog. Like, the dog wants happiness with its owner. It doesn't want to be in the kennel, let's say, like, and punished, right? So that's why we punish a dog. That's why you guys punish dogs. I don't do that shit. I've never punished, well, I used to punish my animals, and I felt so bad. You don't have to punish anybody or any animal. You just need to put up a better argument, even to the animals. And again, you can communicate, even if they don't understand language, you can still have ways of communicating with an animal. Alright, I went way off topic. They have been breeding us. We've been bred for thousands of years to be the way that we are today. Mostly white people and Asians. And we can definitely argue Israelis and Palestinians. I think Palestinians have been bred a little bit more to be lower IQ and violent. But the Israelis, higher IQ and etc., right? They were bred different ways, but they were right next to each other, right? And if you want to know what I'm talking about, they're right next to each other. They are right next to each other. Palestine, Israel. If you want an explanation, an obvious and easy way to explain what I'm telling you. They are basically cousins. But they have been brought up differently and bred differently. I'm not saying Palestinians are all low IQ, violent people. Not saying that. And I'm not saying all Israelis are high IQ and not violent. I'm not saying that. But there's a general trend that you can obviously see and prove. Right? I don't think any of us can argue that the majority of Asian people are short, let's say, right? You know, is there Yao Ming exists? Yeah, Yao Ming exists, but the general trend is that they're small, right? All right, so we have been bred to be the ways that we are. And we've been bred to be, like George Carlin said, like I said in my last video, just smart enough to run the machines and to do all the paperwork, but just docile enough and low IQ, just under the IQ of paying attention to know what kind of slavery we are actually in. So, through this breeding process, and of course I want you to watch my video, The Powers That Be. I want you to, in about 4 of those videos in a row, from The Powers That Be and like 3 more newer ones. I want you to watch those videos so you really understand what I'm talking about here. But you add those videos into this video, we are on the right track. Because now we're going further. They actually have bred us to be this way. Not only did they set up this whole matrix to be the way that it is, in a corporate slave type society, which is perfection. They have bred us to be this way. And they raised our IQ to be able to make iPhones, to make new technology like Nikola Tesla. But now they realize that those minds are dangerous because those minds are rebellious. Those minds don't want to pay taxes. Those minds aren't going to be docile sheep. Those minds are unique and individual and want to break through from society and obeying. Right? So it's definitely higher IQ that's rebellious. This is the thing that we need to realize. The sit down and shut up method isn't necessarily low IQ either, but it's a ability to conform. So that's why East Asians, they are the most put into a classroom to obey, right? What do they do? 10, 12 hours a day schoolwork? East Asians? Something like that, right? I'm not too far off. Say 12 hours a day, schoolwork, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday. I don't know. I've never lived there. But they work very hard and they conform them to sit down and shut up and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. Obviously, that's going to benefit their society. Everyone's going to obey. Everyone's going to agree under this communist dictatorship, let's say China. And because of all the schoolwork, they're going to be smart enough to run all the machines, but obey everything that is brought, you know, from their bosses to their corporate masters to their government. They're going to obey everything. And wow, this guy really slammed on his brakes this much. Yep, now everyone's going to get in the other lane and I can't get over it. Now I'm going fucking 55 into 75 because this guy wants to go this slow. Alright. I'm almost done with the video. There was a part 2 to this. We are bred to be docile and nowadays lower IQ. Yeah, there's a second part to this. But we're going to be quick because I basically laid all the foundation down. They have been changing your genetic code to be the way that it is nowadays. They're even changing Africans to obey and Native Americans, etc., right? And the native tribes, the ones that are still tribal today, they're domesticating them, right? And I'm not saying that tribes aren't domesticated in themselves. They are just becoming more domesticated, more, like for example, they take sub-Saharan Africans with an average IQ of, let's say, 72. which is very fucking low. It's probably the lowest in the world, on average. I think there's actually a pygmy tribe that might be lower, but stay with me. About 72 IQ, let's say. They take 72 IQ from this world over here and bring it to America. After a few generations, their IQ goes up. Not dramatically, not to 100, but that 72 might get up to 75, 76, 77. Because what happens is, the way that they are breeding us today is to be able to make us high enough IQ, like just above criminality, which is about 80 to 85 is the sweet spot for criminals, where you're just high IQ enough to do an effective crime, but dumb enough to want to do crime, right? And don't care about repercussions or anything like that, right? So like 80, 85 is a sweet spot for criminality. Lower than that, you're going to be too dumb and docile. Above that, you're going to be smart enough to not do it. So crime, generally 80, 85, so they want you just above 85, but they don't want you too smart to understand that, like what I'm telling you. They don't want people like me out there, or Jordan Peterson, or whoever, right? They don't want intelligent fucking people. They don't want more Einsteins, right? They don't want people to preach to other people, because that might raise the bar for society. They want dumb, docile sheep. Watch your TV. They want you just at the range that's above criminality, but lower than thinking for yourself, right? So 80 to 80, 85 to 90, 85 to 95 would be the sweet spot that they want the population. So they're breeding Africans to be smarter. They're breeding, Asians or Jews or whoever, right, to be lower, and white people lower. And they're trying to make us all sweet spot. You can see this and in like brochures and advertising, why they always want the black man with the white girl. So the white girl would be like 105 IQ, the black man would be 85 IQ, the offspring's going to be right in that sweet spot, right? Whatever, right? That's just an example. But they always try to make it diverse. They want us to all interbreed and to be genetically modified. And, or to be modified to be lower IQ. You understand what I'm getting at. I don't want to keep repeating myself. There's another aspect of this. But that's important. That's a very important aspect. Well, another aspect would be, think of it like this. If your parents have diabetes, what's the chances you have diabetes? If your parents have HIV, what are the chances you will have HIV? In terms of being passed down from generation to generation, whatever disease it is, whatever illness, right? If your parents had autism, what are the chances you're going to have autism, right? This is being bred down from generation to generation as well, right? 100 years ago, there was no such thing as diabetes. No such thing. No such thing as HIV. You know what I'm getting at, right? There's something that's happened recently that is making us all sick, dumb, docile, manipulating our genetics through vaccinations, genetic modified foods, to allergies. Allergies? When did allergies exist? Never. Never. They're manipulating your food and they're manipulating you. The two combined is manipulating your DNA, and when they manipulate your DNA, they are making you and breeding you into being docile fucking slaves. So, going from smartening people up to dumbing people. Nowadays, since we have the mix of, like, say, higher IQ races generally, which would be generally, white people have been bred for 10,000 years to be domesticated in higher IQ. Arts, as you can see, like the beauty and the art and stuff like that, that's higher intelligence. Look at ancient Greece or Rome or whatever. And we call it ancient, but it's only like 2,000 years ago. Asians, obviously, higher IQ. Israelis, generally higher IQ. Especially for the Middle East, that's fucking really high IQ. So, we know that they are trying to dumb down people of high IQ and raise the bar for low IQ, so they can have that sweet spot. Just like I said in that George Carlin quote, which I butchered, obviously. But it's the sickness now that is also part of it. The elite don't breed with me and you. They do not breed with me and you. The elite do not. If the elite person is from Germany, right? A German elitist does not breed with a sub-Saharan African. It does not happen. There is no evidence it ever has happened. And don't think the elite is like Bill Clinton, where Bill Clinton fucked a hooker who was black and had that child. Daniel Williams? I don't remember his name. Last year it was a huge thing, or 2 years ago it was a huge thing that Bill Clinton had that son that's like my age, 32. But, is it something Williams, right? Danny Williams? I think that's it. Yeah, I think I got it. Point is, Bill Clinton isn't the elite. He'll fuck anybody. Most people and politicians and stuff like that, they aren't elites. They're like 15 levels down from the elites. They are the WWF or whatever, WWE type of people, right? So the elite are the elite, right? There's very, very, very few of them, and they run the world. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they don't breed with me and you, and they try to keep it in the family, or at least royal family to royal family, at least, meaning a Rothschild and a Rockefeller, right? That would make sense, or a DuPont with whoever, right? You know what I'm getting at. They would interbreed with each other. They would breed with sisters, cousins, etc., right? That's the general gist of what they do. They keep in the family and they try to make their genetics higher IQ. Because, again, just like we breed those cows to be dumb and docile, they are breeding us to be this perfect, exactly what they want us to be manipulated to. While they are getting smarter and smarter. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, they're not that smart, they're dumb. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They know some shit that you will never fucking comprehend. They are the Jordan Petersons at the top of the pyramid. They are smart. They have been doing this for thousands of years. Manipulating us, and because they keep breeding in higher IQ, they're getting smarter. And they're breeding the presidents and CEOs of companies to everyone, right? Everyone who's top of the line. They are breeding them from their families, and they're keeping them in the family. Just do me a favor. I know George Bush Jr. isn't technically elite, but he's definitely a major puppet of the elite. He's definitely went through the secret societies and the occult. George Bush Jr. Look at Laura Bush. If you took Laura Bush's long hair and put it on George Bush, you wouldn't see the difference. You'd be like, well, that's George now, and that's Laura. Right? Have you ever looked at them? They're essentially the same person. They're like sisters or something, right? It's just brother and sister. Alright? And I'm not saying that just to be a conspiracy and throw in that they're sisters and brothers. I'm not saying that they are. They could be cousins. But they're definitely keeping it in the family. Right? And they've learned that because they've been in the occult. Now, look at it like this. If they're constantly at the top, being healthier, not taking vaccines, not eating the genetic modified foods, not drinking the poisons and guzzling down all the sugar that we are now, we are the ones getting sick. We are the ones that are passing on diabetes and autism to our future generations. Just look at it like this. If you are drinking alcohol, you are dumbing down your next generation. You are bringing forth traits to your next generation that is detrimental, that is destructive. They might be born with a weaker bladder or disease straight off the fucking bat. I didn't expect this to be this long. I expected to get through this a little faster. They breed us to be sick and dumber and docile. Everything that's at the grocery store now is genetically modified, sprayed with Roundup, disgusting. You think the elite eat those foods? No! Pumped with antibiotics and added with pink slime fillers? They're not eating what we're eating. They're drinking water with perfect pH balance and minerals, and they're getting all their vitamins. And they're becoming more powerful and stronger and smarter. And when we interbreed, let's say, you know, hillbillies, you know, brother and sister fuck, and they have an offspring, of course it's going to be dumb. Because we are dumb. So those genetics are fucking confused. And it's not obviously 100% that you're going to be dumber or autistic if you interbreed. But they do it all the time. There's evidence of this. There's stories of it all the time, even in your history books now that talk about it. About interbreeding from pharaohs to kings to whoever, right? Always the powers that be, always interbred. They wouldn't take a peasant woman and be like, that's my queen now. No, they would take a peasant woman, fuck the shit out of her probably, maybe have offspring, but then they'll be diluted in the masses after generation and generation. But they're not going to be royalty. It's only in the family. Because they want to be, they breed themselves to be powerful and strong and intelligent. Now, the last thing I want to say, because I just want to finish up on the sickness part, they want us sick. Because if we are sick, it's going to help with depopulation. If you are sick, what mate wants to mate with you? If you have heart disease and you can't perform in the bedroom, let's say, or you have diabetes so you're always weak and you're not happy. No, what happens when you're fully healthy? You're happy, you're enjoying life, you can be more funny and charismatic and charming, right? Good qualities when you're feeling good, but when you're 20 years of drinking and you're diabetic and you're having heart disease and all of this shit, no one wants to fuck you. No one wants to interbreed with you. You're a risk. Right? And then when you pass those traits on to your children, having weaker and weaker immune systems and hearts and allergies and all this shit, you're breeding people that are going to essentially just be too dumb enough to repopulate. Your family genetics are going to end. So be mindful about your health. Don't take the vaccinations. Don't eat out of a box and drink your chemicals. Drink water. Real water. And eat real whole foods with fiber. And that hasn't been processed and genetically modified. And have your own farms. You think again, do you think the elite go to the supermarket? Do you think the elite are lining up to get vaccinated? No, they are trying to stay away from you sick, docile, dumb population. You are worms to them. You are either running the race for them, keeping them in power, basically creating new technology and easier ways of life, you know, safer existences, right? This is the safest time in history. We are the most docile group in history, population in history. And there's a reason for this. They have perfected slavery. You don't need shackles and chains to go work in the fields for them. You don't have to do that. You know why? Because they don't need you anymore. The only thing they need is for you to continue on in your existence. To be brainwashed to do their bidding. That's all they need. They don't have to be involved with you. They don't even have to fucking talk to you. What they have done is create a structure through money and genetic engineering to create the perfect slaves where you're not rebellious. And they train you from childhood to sit down and shut up and obey. Don't question anything. Don't rebel. You rebel, you're going to be a criminal. And if you're a criminal, you're not going to ever be further in life. They train you to not be rebellious. What am I? Someone who's anti-modern education. I'm not against teaching children. 100% for teaching children and helping children think and learn. But the reason I'm a rebel and I'm an anarchist is because I see what's going on. I have torn down the walls of the Matrix and my conformity and my ability to obey no matter what. I've taken that out of the equation and I said, hey, I see reality. I see your game. And I'm not trying to fucking Alex Jones the fuck out of you guys right now. I'm not Alex Jones. But I see what's going on. And I don't have the articles to prove it, but I see what's going on. And it's clear to me that they have perfected their slavery after thousands of years. They want you pledging allegiance to a flag. They want you to believe your teachers who are just repeating rhetoric and what they want you to know. While the elite aren't even in the government. The elite aren't at your local banks. The elite aren't in your supermarket and grocery store. But you are. You see the difference here. This is why I study them. I want to know what they know. This is why I studied the occult. And I don't mean just whatever you read online or YouTube videos online. I mean, I really have to study the occult from people that have actually been in the occult. I don't mean I was a 5th degree Freemason. I was really up there. I'm not talking about that. I mean the real occult. The real secrets. That's what I want to know. Why? Because again, they are breeding very successful children. I want to breed very successful children. They breed very healthy children. There's no autism or diabetes with them. But there is with us. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to make sure that you're in that sweet spot. And in their secret societies, they're training their children to be corporate masters. This is where they are. This is where we are. You're going to be trained to be the new head of McDonald's. You're going to be trained to be the new president of the United States. You are going to be trained to be this banking head. And they train their children to be in positions of power. And they are healthy. And they are successful. And they are happy. Not all of them. But they are much more happier than doing your fucking 9 to 5. Alright? This is a long video. I did not expect it to be this long, so I have to shut it off here. I just hope that you guys understand what I'm getting at. How easy it is just in a few generations to change a fox from being completely instinctual to domesticated, or essentially domesticated. 80, 90 years. And just in 2 or 3 generations, taking a sub-Saharan African man and putting him in the United States and having 2 to 3 generations in the United States, that they're already raising their IQ points. Or if they were from East Asia, and just 2 or 3 generations now are dumb now and sick. And you already know. You already know. You already know what I'm getting at here. So enough for this video. Plenty more coming. I have one subscriber with a topic that he wanted me to make a whole video on, and I told him I would, so that's going to be the next video. Stay tuned for that one. Plenty more content coming, so stay tuned. See you guys.